Namaste and good morning to everyone. I'm Krishna Bhargavi, working as Assistant Professor in the Department of CSE GRIET. Today let us discuss about transaction management. After completion of this session, we will be able to achieve or understand the term called as transaction and what are the different applications of transaction, and also understand the properties of transaction. So generally, what a transaction means? If we observe or if we ask anybody what the transaction mean, anyone will say it is a banking transaction. So have you ever thought what a banking transaction mean and why are we calling that to be a transaction? So anywhere, if you are saying that something as a transaction, it must have a logical sequence of operations. So if we say that it is a banking transaction like a fund transfer, so you wanted to debit some amount from your account and credit some amount into the other person's account. So in that case, what are the logical sequence of operations that have to be performed? First of all, log in into your account, give your credentials, select your beneficiary account, select the amount that we wanted to pay, obtain the OTP, provide the transaction password, then perform your operation. Then when you are performing this operation again on the other person's account, the amount must be properly credited. So then only we will say that the transaction is successful. But what is the transaction that has happened internally? There is a sequence of operations that what I spelled now. Right. So here the transaction is defined as a collection of operations to perform a single logical function in a database application. So the logical sequence of operations that we have is logging into our internet banking application, selecting our account, giving our login credentials, selecting the beneficiary account. All these will come under the collection of operations. When these collection of operations tied up together, we call it to be a transaction. With respect to the database terminology, the transaction is spelled to be the read and write operations, because retrieval of your information is called as read and either a debit or credit operation is called as write, because it is modifying the database. Some of the examples of transaction are online ticket reservation system, where amount is debiting from your account and a ticket is obtained into again your mail IDs. Then bank fund transfer, where amount has to be credited to one account and debited from one account. Library book access, you provide amount to the library and you can access your books. So these are certain examples where you have a set of activities to be performed in order to constitute it to be a transaction. The major components of transaction management are failure recovery manager and concurrency control manager. So in case of a failure, how do you recover your transaction from it? And how do you assure the consistency of the database? If you are operating in parallel from the same account, how do you ensure that those two transactions do not interfere with one another? So that is taken care by the concurrency control manager. So for this transaction, we have certain set of properties to be achieved. So here the properties are called as ACID properties: atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. Atomicity indicates that it is an all or none requirement. So as in a transaction, we have logical set of operations. We wanted to complete all the operations to make the transaction to be successful. In case of a power failure, we do not want any operation to be performed. Example, consider your banking application where credit and debit operations are performed from the one account to the other account. So from these logical set of activities, if a power failure happened after debit from your account but amount is not yet credited into the other person's account. So do you want to undo this activity, or just debiting amount from your account and not crediting to the other account is correct? So that is achieved here using the atomicity property. So if a power failure or any system failure has occurred, if the transaction is not successful, in that case all operations will be undone. So that is your none operation. If the transaction is successful, that is debit from your account and credit into the other person's account has happened, we call it to be all operations to be performed. So atomicity is called as all or none requirement. Either all operations of a transaction are performed and then we say the transaction is successful. If a transaction is failed, none of the operations will be performed. Going on to the second property, we call it to be consistency, which assures the correctness requirement of a transaction. So here, always the database must be consistent. It must be correct. So whether your transaction is success or failure, you must have the database to be correct. So here, if the initial balances of A and B are 100 and 100, and I want to debit amount 50 rupees from A and credit it into B. So after the transaction is successful, in A you should have 50 and in B you should have 150. So before the transaction, the sum of values in both the accounts is 200, 100 and 100. After the transaction is successful, you have 50 and 150, again the sum is 200. But in case of a power failure, if the initial balances are 100 and 100, after debit from A, it is 50, but not yet credited to B. So then what will happen? After the transaction, you will have 50 plus 100, which is 150. So 50 rupees are missing. So that should not happen. So that is taken care by the consistency property. So consistency always ensures that the database modifications, whatever we do before and after the transactions, are correct. So that's why we call this to be the correctness requirement. Then coming to the third property, which is called as isolation property, we call this to be the independence requirement. So here there are chances that the transactions could be executing in parallel. So from the same account A, one may be performing, yourself may be performing an online shopping on Amazon. At the same time, you are also purchasing some other product from Flipkart from two different machines. So then what will happen? These two transactions should not interfere so that the balance that remains in your account should be correct. So wherever you go, whenever you have the concurrent transactions, make sure that these two transactions do not interfere with one another. So that non-interference is maintained by making use of this isolation property. Then coming to the durability, we call this to be the persistence requirement of the database. So persistence requirement mean before the transaction, if you have 100 and 100 in two accounts A and B, if the transaction is successful, after the transaction in A you should have 50 and in B you should have 150. And if you wanted to further perform operations on A and B, the new balances must be retained in the database 50 and 150. If in case your transaction is a failure, then the old values must be persisting back. So it should be 100 and 100. So the durability property ensures that in case of a successful transaction, new values are updated and they are persisted in your database. If the transaction is a failure, the old values are retained back and those will be restored in the database. So these are the four important properties that any transaction must hold. Then in the previous slide, I told you that we have two components. One is the failure recovery manager. The second one is concurrency control manager. So first let us understand this concurrency control manager. So when there are concurrent execution of transactions, that is two transactions executing in parallel and they are trying to modify the same account. So in that case, we are saying that those two transactions should not interfere with one another. To ensure that these two transactions do not interfere with one another, we will be making use of a mechanism called as locking mechanism. So what is this locking mechanism? Lock is nothing but a mechanism using which you will be able to control access on the database objects. So now, if I wanted to use on the account A, I will apply a lock on it so that no other person will be using it. right? So that we call it as locking mechanism. So here in databases, we have two types of locks. We call them to be shared lock and exclusive lock. Using shared lock, you can provide lock to multiple users only to view the data. You cannot perform any updations on the data. So we usually call the shared lock to be read only lock. Then coming to the exclusive lock, this can be applied by only one user on a database object. So with the exclusive lock, you are going to modify the data. So when you are trying to modify data, no other person will be given access to it. So updations are allowed using the exclusive lock. Viewing is allowed using the shared lock. So shared lock, as you are providing viewing only to the data, multiple users will be provided shared lock. When you are updating the data, only one user has to update. So exclusive lock will be provided to only one user. So using this locking mechanism, we are restricting the concurrent execution of transactions not to interfere with one another. Then the failure recovery manager. So whenever there is a failure to your database, to your transactions, how do you ensure that they remain consistent in the database? So in order to ensure that, the DBMS implements something called as write ahead lock mechanism. So with this write ahead lock, before writing the transaction on the database, it writes the transaction modifications on a log. Log is nothing but a file that is available on the hard disk. So whenever a failure occurs, if the modifications are not properly done on the database, it results in an inconsistent database. Not to have this, you have a log. So whenever there is a failure on your machine, as the log file is available on your secondary storage, you can verify what are the operations that are performed on the log. So with that, if the transaction is successful, the log records can be either redone or undone. In case of a successful transaction, you will redo the operations from the log file. If there is an unsuccessful transaction, you will undo the operations from the log file. Yes, but here if you observe, when there are more number of log records in the log file, it takes more time to recover from the failure. So instead, we'll make use of a checkpointing mechanism here in database, which will allow you to forcibly write some information to the disk. So what information will be written? If there is a successful transaction, while you are writing the log records onto the log file, if the transaction is successful, immediately it forces only those pages to be written onto the disk. So that at the time of power failure, only we will be checking the recent operations and the unsuccessful transactions. So with the checkpointing mechanism, you can reduce the time for recovery. So hope you understood what a transaction means, what are the operations that are performed on a transaction, what are its properties, and the two major components of transaction. Thank you.